Good morning. Welcome back to Honey. So today's video, as you can see by the title, is how to land a job you're unqualified for. The reason I'm talking about this topic is because I particularly, especially post-grad, just after recently graduating, I have interestingly had a lot of jobs, enough, where they didn't really coincide with what I actually studied in college, and I technically should have been unqualified for them based off of what the job requirements were. But I was able to land them, and I was able to also really do well in my jobs, right? I was able to impress my bosses, learn a lot, use my skills, and improve some new skills. So I know there's a bunch of people that are graduating college or that haven't had college that want to be able to have a job that can bring in enough money and that also want something that they care about, right? Graduating college, usually entry-level positions are like, hey, if you have 5 years of experience, if you have 10 degrees, if you don't have any student debt, if you're gonna make $10,000 a year, really unrealistic expectations for what people who want jobs or people who need jobs are waiting for or looking for. This is kind of the tips and tricks I've used to kind of go around about those few things and be able to get jobs that have been super helpful for my resume and also really great for my experience. So here's some 7 tips. Let's go. Okay, tip number 1, be realistic about your strengths. I'm not trying to convince you to become a web developer if you've never coded in your life. I'm not trying to convince you to become a dancer if you have no sense of rhythm. What is important here, right, is to be able to get the job that you're technically unqualified for, is to be able to have a set of skills and then also have a set of skills you were expected to have, and maybe more refined skills, maybe skills added on to these base level skills that you have, that you can take what you already have with and then pair a learning experience to and be able to rise to the occasion, as opposed to knowing absolutely nothing about the field that you're entering into, So, for example, one of the jobs that I got, which will be my example for the rest of this video, is I got this position as an interior designer. I don't know if I spoke in the last video about this, but what I studied in college was international relations, so basically international politics, culture, language, economics, very specific one-sided things, as opposed to interior design, right? But I did also have an art minor, and I loved to decorate. Okay, let me be honest. This apartment is not doing me a lot of justice in my credibility as an interior designer, so please just ignore what's going on. You know the saying that you may have the knowledge but not the means? That's me. I have the knowledge of how to put things together, but not the means. So I love to decorate. I had a few opportunities when I did special events decorating, where I did special events organizing, where I'd be in charge of the layout of things. So I would make backdrops, or I would make logos for things. I was an RA in college, decorated my floor that everybody was obsessed with. It was really funny. Things like that. And being an artist, having an eye for composition, color, the way things are placed is really helpful when it comes to just pouring into other forms of design and creativity, because once you have an eye, that really helps make all the other worlds of design that you're working in much easier. It doesn't mean you're professional in them, but it definitely makes it easier, right? So that was my kind of strength coming into my interior design interview, or me applying for this position. I knew that I had the eye to see how things work well together. And I was confident in my ability to look at composition, and I also knew that I was intelligent, right? I'm not trying to be prideful, but I know that if I need to learn something, I can pretty much learn it. Especially in a work environment, that's where I thrive. So that's an example. Okay, moving on to the next one. Tip number 2, make your resume relevant. So I know it is so easy to be able to have one generic resume that we have and send it to thousands of people that we are applying to jobs for, because I am the number 1 person that hates updating resumes, that hates, when you apply for something, you send in an application, and then they ask for your resume, which you give them, but then they also have this entire long job form where they're like, please write down every single form of work experience you've ever had, from what month to what month, who your supervisor was, what their phone number is, and if we can contact them. And I'm like, why are you making me write my resume twice? So I understand the frustration and continuously adjusting this, but it is so important. It really, really, really makes a difference. So I would emphasize that, even though you may be lazy like me, it's something you should put your time to. So make your resume relevant, right? So like when I was giving my resume for the interior design position, what did I do? I really maximized on all of the jobs that I had that leaned into a design element. First of all, you should never have a resume that is longer than 1 page, right? So obviously I have had work experience that exceeds 1 page worth of resume. So on my general resume, which I have to apply to more jobs aligned with what my major was, which is if I'm thinking about something in immigration, something in international policy, something in public policy, you know, I have something that really leans towards those things. Then I also have a little bit more of a generic resume towards design things, which I tweaked for this. So I put up all of my events design positions, all of my graphic design positions, all of my marketing positions. And these aren't like real like post-grad positions. These are things I did in college. These are things I did when I was in high school. These are things I did for volunteering for nonprofits, even on the side during college and during high school. These are things that I did for student organizations in my school that I just liked. And I was like, hey, can I make this for you? And they were like, sure. You know, it might not have been the best thing that I ever made in my life, but it was something that I made and something I was able to put on paper and say, hey, I made logos for the student union in my school, you know? So taking the opportunity to do those things and then also maximizing on them in your resume. So I talked about being an RA, decorating RA floor. I talked about one time taking this online interior design course because I wanted to be an interior designer. I talked about my live events. I talked about all of my marketing experience. I know that they were also lacking in marketing. And I was like, oh, like I am proficient in these forms of social media. They asked me, what social media platforms do you know how to use? That's like Hootsuite and Buffer and Latergram. I don't know if you have any of those things. And I, at that point, legit knew nothing. I was like, I know nothing about these things. What am I going to do? So you know what I did? I went on YouTube. And then I spent 15 minutes researching each one of those platforms. Latergram, Hootsuite, Buffer. And then when I went back to my little application and I was like, I am well versed in all 3 of these platforms. Because at that point, I was. So genuinely, there are a lot of opportunities in which you were told you have some requirements for this position that you can do the learning of, especially if they're quick, like what I just did, to be able to be technically qualified for this position, right? So I made sure my resume really exemplified on those things because that is what my hirer will be looking for. Okay, so number 3, dress the part. It is very important for you to show up to the interview in a way that makes the first impression someone sees you communicate exactly what you're trying to communicate. I know it's superficial. I know it's stupid. Not stupid. It's superficial and it's frustrating that things can be superficial that way, but it is very important. If someone is considering making you a part of their brand, making you a part of their company, they want to make sure that you're doing exactly what they want their brand or a company to communicate. So all the ways that you can tell your hiring manager or your interviewer that you are exactly the candidate that they're looking for without even having to use your words, that is bonusing a bunch more points for you without you having to actually do any active work for it, right? So by me showing up, for example, I love to dress however I want to dress. Usually, I'm not wearing rags like this, like you've seen me in the past 2 videos. I am usually wearing velvet, dangly earrings, high heels, anything extravagant and lovely that I can think of that a lot of people won't, the average person won't really wear, but I wear because I love. I have to be able to separate myself from who I present myself to be when I'm in the world as my own person, as Honey, not carrying another message with me, as opposed to when I am working for a company and I am approaching a client or I'm approaching a client base or an audience representing my company. I have to be the person that the company is wanting themselves to be seen as in the space of the world, right? So I was like, okay, how do I present myself in a way that says, A, I'm someone who's creative, innovative, and I'm able to pair things that are beautiful, colorful, have interesting composition together in a way that doesn't threaten my ability to be seen as someone that is trustworthy, someone that is intelligent, someone that is put together, composed, and someone that is professional, right? So I was like, okay, I need to wear a lovely pair of dress pants. I have a pair of emerald green high-waisted dress pants. They cut at the ankle, and then I wore these brown wedge boots that I had, and then I wore this floral top and then this blazer, right? Because these are all colors and beautiful things that I love, but the blazer also helps make me look a little bit more professional. I kept my earrings a little more subdued. I pulled my hair all the way back. I did it at the top tight bun, and I wore a black purse, right? And I remember coming to that interview and my boss halfway through it being like, you know what? I really love your outfit. You are dressed very nicely and I love the way that this looks. And I said, thank you, miss. I really appreciate that. Because my outfit was purposefully doing what I intended for it to do, to show my boss that I was creative, that I was innovative, that I know how to put color and composition together, that I'm also professional, that I'm also an adult, that I'm also able to carry both the sides of being someone that's bringing something new and innovative to clientele while also making the clients feel safe in their hands, right? So it's very important to dress for whatever your position is. If you're going to be interviewing for a coding position, dress very professionally. If you're going to be interviewing for a position where you are doing business development, right, where you're going to be networking with a bunch of other businesses, or you're going to be consulting or presenting your business over and over again to other high executives or, like high profile clientele, make sure that you are dressed in a way that tells your future boss, possible future boss, that I can present myself in front of future clientele that may, regardless of whatever income they are, will see me as someone that's professional and will see me that someone that's trustworthy, because that is what is important, right? Tell your boss what they want to hear without having to use your words to say it. Tip number 4, sell yourself well. So all the work that you've done to make sure that that resume is relevant for the job you're applying for, is relevant for all of your skills, even though they may not be exactly word for word the skills that were required for or asked for in the job requirements in the application that you saw beforehand. Make sure that you are tying in the skills that you have to be able to show, look at these skills, they can achieve what you want me to achieve in a way you may not have expected to, but in a way that does even more than you wanted, right? So, for example, when I was interviewing for my position, I really emphasized my, what is the word I used? I really emphasized my diversity of experience of how I can engage with any sort of client, right? Because of my personality. Okay, I can talk to people. I am pretty eloquent when I speak. And I also have a lot of life experience that makes it very interesting for me to talk, makes it interesting for other people to talk with me, but also I'm very good at being able to bring out qualities or stories in someone else that they find interesting about themselves, to show that I have interest in what they're saying, to be able to connect back to what I'm talking about, and to also make the conversation flow in a way that's not awkward, but that also achieves what I want to achieve at the end of the day, which is selling some sort of product, or convincing them of my quality of services or my ability to make them feel safe as a designer, right? So do that as well in your interview. So sell yourself, know your skills, know your talents, be able to show your interviewer that you can sell and you can do what they need you to do at the end of the point, which is to make profit for them without them even asking these in-between steps of you, and you improving the entire position as you go along. Does that make sense? So yeah, that's tip number 4. Tip number 5. At the end of every interview, they say, do you have any questions for me? And you're kind of like, do I? I don't know. I feel stressed. I don't know what I'm doing. Use that opportunity, okay? Because that shows your hiring manager or your interviewer that you are taking a lot of interest in the position, that you are also being reasonable and thoughtful about the process, in the same way that they are. Know that when you are interviewing for position, you are not just interviewing for position. You are also interviewing your potential or future boss for a position and seeing how it works for you. It is okay for you to want to be impressed by your interviewer as well. Does that make sense? Because they are not only doing you the favor by hiring you, you are also doing them a favor by filling this position, right? And doing their work and making them more profit at the end of the day. If you can prove to the person that is hiring you that you can bring them more profit, you can make their business more profitable, that you can help them increase popularity, whatever their specific goals are, right? If you can prove to them that you can do those things, at the end of the day, they will understand the justification of why you are also seeing if they are worth your investment, your time, and you putting your effort into making their business profitable. Does that make sense? So when they ask you if you have any questions, ask a question. Even if you can think of one or can't think of one, have 2 or 3 in your back pocket that you ask regardless. I went to one interview and one of my interviewers said, she asked me a question and I think I asked her something very small and nominal. And then she's like, do you have any more? And I was like, no. What do you think is a question that you wish candidates would ask more? And she said, well, whenever I interview, I always ask my interviewer, what could I have done in this interview to make it better, right? To market myself better. And she always makes it a learning experience for her. One thing I also do is, after this interview, how do I line up to other candidates for the same position? What am I lacking, or what is good about me? And usually they'll tell me something that I didn't do well, and they'll be like, oh, I don't know about this part of you, right? And when they tell me something that they don't think that I am qualified in, I try to be critical about it and be like, maybe they have a point and I'm not actually qualified in this and don't even want this position. So I'll be like, okay, cool, thanks, bye, you know? Or I would be like, if they tell me something and they're like, oh, you can't do A, B, and C, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, I appreciate you bringing that concern up because actually it's something I wanted to explain to you. And I'm able to, whatever their concern is that they bring up, not knowing that they are really helping me with my own interview process, whatever their concern is that they bring up, let's say I don't have a certain hard skill. I make sure that in my answer of how they tell me I do not have this hard skill and it is not what they're looking for, I will make sure to be able to show how I have another hard skill or another soft skill that can make up for my lack of this hard skill and something more, right? Someone's like, oh, I'm worried that you don't know how to use the photo editing software Lightroom. And I'm like, oh, it's actually very interesting because I have used all these other photo editing softwares that I own on my own. And I also have used all the other Adobe Creative Cloud softwares. So learning Lightroom will take me 5 minutes. And by the next interview, I'll probably have that under my belt. So don't even worry about it. You know, things like that. Using as many opportunities as you can to let your interviewer tell you what you need to do to make your interview even better. Number 6, be consistent in touching base. There's a lot of times that you send in applications, you have job interviews, you know, you talk to potential bosses, and they don't touch base with you afterwards, and then you just leave it hanging. Don't do that because it shows me you also don't really care about the position that much. Touch base. Touch base. If they say they're going to call you next Monday and they don't call you next Monday, what do? You call them next Monday. Does that make sense? You need to be able to show the people that are hiring you that you are interested in this position. So number 7, even if you do not get the job, be sure to be polite, respectful, and use your resources well. So what I try to do if I don't get a position is I will email them back, say, thank you for taking the time to interview with me. Thank you for considering me as a candidate. If you have the time, could you let me know why I didn't get the position? And if they respond to me, that's great. If they don't, that's fine. But I always try and every few months touch base back with a company that I really wanted to work for, and they didn't give me a job, to be like, hey, like, saw this article you guys put out. I thought it was great. Hey, Benny, recruiter guy, touching base, saw this position, interested in it, blah, 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 blah. So that you can continue keeping this person or this company as a business networking potential for you, so that you can always stay in whatever field that you're interested in staying in. And so that also even if you're rejected from this position, the taste you leave in the hiring manager's mouth or the recruiter's mouth is so positive that they are eager to reinvite you to another position or eager to reinvite you to another interview. Does that make sense? So yeah, those are the tips I have for you. I hope those are helpful. It is always important for people to be able to get steps to move ahead, especially as jobs become more and more unnecessarily impossible to get and job qualifications are unrealistic, especially for college graduates. Make the most of what you have. Sell yourself, be driven, be passionate, be confident, and don't sell yourself short. That's what I have for you. Hope that was helpful. Look for you in my next video.